Good for you.
Right. I mean, that's the thing is, you you fight with it enough, and then eventually you're just like, okay, uh, I mean, would I rather just would I is this, okay, would I rather you know finish up games that have been running? Am I going to hold fast to that idea? I want to finish these games. Finish the story up, what I had conceived, what the players have developed, and all these things. But when there's such a resistance, like for that to happen, for whatever reason, there's a resistance, right? Call it the pandemic. There's plenty of resistance. There's a point where it's like, or do we just want to do something else? You know, I mean, clearly, it's not making people lose sleep, and the players that really want to do it, they just want to play something. I think they want to play those games that they're aware of, but um, I don't think it's anyone's like goal. Like I want to see that movie, let's go see that movie, and because of that, no one's carving out the time to make it happen. There's no what do you call it when a group of people come together and they get down in the clutch. There's like a term that football teams use and shit. Like basketball teams, they're like, and we all pulled together.
No.
I forget what that's called.
Pulling together.
I guess there's a word for it.
I was thinking momentum or impetus, but then you're like, then you start talking about we all pulled together and got it done, and like,
yeah,
I guess it's just the phrase works. We just use the phrase.
Yeah, pull together, I guess. But there's something about that.
I don't think there are. I think a lot of players are more interested in just playing anything, and they're not always as choosy as some of us. Like me, I want to play in specific kinds of games, and others I'm not interested in at all.
Right.
No. Well, that's why I don't want to do one shots right now, because it's there's not enough return on the emotional investment, or it becomes not a one shot. And it's like, great, I don't have time for this, or I'm not going to commit the time to it, so I guess I'm out. Good. It just gets tricky.
That is a good question. The whole point of one shot is, to get an out, to hit it and quit it, right? That's the whole.
We're live, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's the whole point of it. You get in, you get out.
Yeah.
But because a one shot is more about either playtesting something or doing that idea that's not a full game idea.
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey, we all like each other's company and we want to game, but maybe it's that we can't do the game that we want because maybe a person's not there.
Right.
Or let's just change it up. Let's do that zombie game and we'll do a one or a two shot.
Yeah.
But it's the story is only this big. I think so long as everyone's down for that, it can work. The problem in the past has been that the one shot everyone gets excited about, and then it becomes a campaign. Then everybody ditches on.
Yeah.
But that's not. I don't think there should be any aversion to doing a one shot because that's kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like if you don't have enough time to game, then there's no problem. It's like, hey man, I don't want to game tonight. But if it's like, well, I don't want to game unless it's one of these games. Do you not want to do anything? Well, let's just hang out. It's like, but I want a game.
Yeah. Well, my thing was, Jacob wanted to game or hang out. I'm like, I vote we hang out.
Yeah. I think he just wanted to chill.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is we only get so much time where we're all together.
That's true.
And it doesn't always have to be gaming.
Truth.
And if I have a choice between a one shot and just spending time with my friends, shooting the shit, catching up, I'd rather do the second.
I'd rather game.
I know.
But it's also because it's more of a coordinated effort. I've never understood the idea of, hey, let's go to this party and say things that we all know. We've already had these conversations. Unless you're meeting new people. Like, I want to go, if it's a bunch of people I know, I want to do something with those people. I don't want to be like, hey, let's sit. I mean, look, when we used to go to bars. Back in the day, when people went to bars.
Yeah.
You know, it's
a
like,
long
hey,
time ago.
let's all go hang out at a bar. And then the moment you get to the bar, everyone walks away from each other and starts talking to other people. Like, I do get that to a degree.
It always felt a little contrived or awkward going to bars. Because you get there and you're like, cool, it's too loud to really talk about anything important. I don't have any small talk to make with these people that I've known for 10 years. So we're just going to stand here with our drinks, yeah? Will's going to play Pac-Man.
Right. Miss Pac-Man.
Either one. You would play the other, I think, if Miss Pac-Man wasn't around.
And I actually suck at Pac-Man.
Yeah, but would you still play it?
No.
If Miss Pac-Man wasn't there.
No, I probably wouldn't play Pac-Man. Pac-Man, if it's one of the machines that's sped up, because I think there's a version, I don't know if it's actually sped up or not, but there's a version of Pac-Man. If it's the speedy one, then yeah, I'll play it. If it's a slow one, hell no.
That's just boring.
It's boring and really hard. Like, it's hard to the point where, like, a lot of those 80s games where, like, they're tedious, you know? Whereas Miss Pac-Man, it's fast, and there's not just a pattern to do.
I never did that.
Yeah. Pac-Man, if you know the pattern of the boards, then you can beat the game just by repeating the pattern over and over and over.
So it's like a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, but I've never solved the Rubik's Cube.
I have not either.
All right,
Holger
so
came over and made it into a weird pattern.
Of course
I
he
just kept it like that.
Holger is, he's too good at this. Okay, so this is GameTalk number 15. We've switched it officially to the Sundays. I meant to go to the other page. There it is. Sundays at 7. We are moving through the DreadLore book, which is the game that Baad and I created many moons ago. And we're finally getting around to copy editing because next year in the spring we're going to do a crowdfunding campaign, potentially with Kickstarter, to actually make this a tome, a book.
Boom.
And have a bunch of art in it. So there will be more updates on that and everything later. But for now, we gotta get down. So if anybody wants to follow along with what we're doing, let me find a link really quick. Actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You can go to the DreadLore website, dreadlore.com, HTTP, boop boop. So that is the website, and if you go there and there's a link that says the book, it'll take you to the Google Drive, and you can follow along. Give us suggestions and all that good stuff.
Yeah. And for those of you following along later and not looking at chat, it's just dreadlore.com.
Right. Alright then. Right. So, do you want to talk a little bit about what we've been doing? I'm going to get another soda water.
All right.
And more coffee, because I'm a big glutton for liquid.
So, sorry about that. We're drinking a lot of carbonated water today. I think both of us have. So, last we left off with our game chat, we delved into Magicka Expertise. We've been talking about the various kinds of expertise in the system for several weeks now. The long and short of it is, expertise gives you new abilities, things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do if you didn't have this expertise. As a player character, if you don't have these forms of expertise, then you can't do these things. These are new abilities that are unique, and we've been going through describing what these things are, and then how they can be improved, and what that improvement looks like. So we finally got to Magicka Expertise last week. We started in on this stuff. Magicka is, you know, spellcasting and, you know, magic and wizardry and all the mages, you know, trying to piece together the mysteries of the Aether, and go beyond science. They're wielding these powers. We used to refer to it as Magicka as the art and Theurgy as the science. And Magicka was like painting the sky with colors, and the different forms of Magicka were the colors that you would paint with. We've got them split up into scrolls and circles, which are the broad and subtypes of expertise for Magicka. And then breaking these things down. One, Magicka is dangerous and chaotic. It invokes a chance of calamity or misfortune anytime you use it. And there's a part of me that wants to say that it's a game mechanic intended to balance the fact that Magicka is powerful, but it's not. It's more about setting the stage for the kind of world that this all takes place in. Magicka is powerful, and this is a check on it, but you can re-roll these if you roll a mishap. Basically, you get a chaos die. It's usually a d6. If you roll a 1, then the spell goes sideways. Depending on the power of the Magicka that you're summoning, I said spell. I did not mean to. Really wasn't intentional.
It's really hard to get around.
It's hard to not say spell.
What is a synonym for spell? Incantation?
Sure. Depending on the power.
Conjuration?
Depending on how much juju you're evoking, then that determines how serious the mishap is. So we talked about. Actually, we're looking at the I guess you'd call it a chart here. It's just not formatted like one. It's a list. You know, it starts off with basically, it just fizzles into nothingness to, you know, the volcano you're in explodes and then implodes on you and you die.
Yeah, you become a volcano.
You become a mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no mountain there, and now you are the mountain. You're dead, but the rock erupts out of the earth, and there you are.
Did you make us popcorn? You are the greatest woman in the world.
Yeah, if y'all need more napkins.
Would you like some popcorn? Some of this popcorn?
I will have some eventually.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, you want some.
Thank you.
This is hotter than the fucking sun.
Nice.
Boom. We're going to be
So
crunching away on some motherfucking
If you're summoning popcorn with your Magicka and you mishap, then maybe the popcorn's burnt, or maybe it explodes all over the room,
Or maybe you become a popcorn.
or maybe you become popped corn. Maybe your corn pops.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
Or use a word for spell from another language. That's a good idea. That is a good idea. Why is it that I have never, ever thought of that?
I don't know.
That has never happened. I speak kind of 3 languages. It has never occurred to me to use another language for... And we've
You're
used
gonna-
other languages.
You're gonna come across that one person who like knows what the word is, and they're
Right.
like, it says
spell.
It says spell. Well, they talk about how they don't use the word spell, but this is spell.
All right, Daniel, what is the word for spell in Esperanto?
I was about to say Esperanto.
Yeah, because we use Esperanto. Well, actually, we do use Esperanto in the lore. I always figured that the common tongue was Esperanto of the Calgarian Empire. At any rate, so
we've talked about chaos. We've talked about concentrating on spells. We talked about distance that you can. I said it again. We need that word, Daniel.
come on, Daniel.
Come on, where are you, man? He probably already has it. No, he doesn't. Oh, there it
Oh.
was.
Magico Sorco.
Soko.
Oh, Sorco. So, magical sorcery. Huh. Is it actually Magicka? So, Magicka means it's an adjective. Sorco is the spell. What does actually Sorko mean? Because anything ending in an A is an adjective in Esperanto. Anything with an O is a noun.
Ah, I see.
So Sorko, actually Esperanto for the win. If it ends in an E, it's an adverb.
Wow.
Yep, it's really a cool language. So you can do things like. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna get off on a huge tangent there.
Yeah. So when you're channeling these whatever magical effects you're doing, you can do them at certain distances or across certain distances with like an area of effect. We talked about that. We've talked about manipulation, which is the degree of control you have over your Magicka. Are you able to, say you have telekinesis? You can get telekinesis as a void mage, but there's a point where, you can pick something up sort of clumsily, and it's slow, and the can might turn over and spill your drink. And then there's a point where, eventually you have that fine motor control, delicate touches. You can operate tweezers and that kind of thing with your telekinesis, and that is manipulation. So that can improve over time as well, based off your advancements. And we were just getting into the houses.
Oh, we were in the. Where was the Weavart here? Oh, it's right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just finished manipulation, and we were about to delve into Houses of Magicka. Houses of Magicka are. They've been sort of an optional rule off and on throughout the game's history, but the problem is they're really fascinating. And when you get into these creative types, let's just call them, they're artists. When you get into these artists wielding phenomenal cosmic power to
ultimate cosmic.
What is phenomenal cosmic power? I feel like it's a Marvel quote.
There's the power cosmic is a Marvel thing, I think.
It is, yeah.
But in Aladdin, the Dark Genie, when he's like cosmic ultimate power and all this kind of thing.
Jafar.
Yeah.
In either way, it really does seem like they would try to build some sort of hierarchy, a way to rank themselves. Oh, well, you're a rank 1 wizard, right? You're
a hedge wizard.
You are in the first sphere, and as you move through the spheres of the celestial heavens, eventually you will reach the sun and bask in the light of the master or whatever. And that's what this is. It's a way that they categorize themselves and create a hierarchy of, basically it's who should I respect, and it's part of the world.
Yep. But there are mechanical implications.
There are. What's up?
I'm just making sure that they can see.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
So, just to read through this, Houses of Magicka quickly become the difference between a mage who has studied and is truly gifted, and then one who is learned in the secret ways of the mystics of 12 and 7. There is no comparison in power. A mage of a greater house is a greater mage. Any Zen who can adequately perform Magicka could consider themselves to be a mage. However, a whole new level of mage exists, those who belong to the Houses of Magicka. Normally, only mages who have braved the intense scrutiny of the mages' colleges are allowed entry into the houses. There are some, however, who have found a trained mentor to lead them into entry. Fewer still have entered on their own accord and special talent in the art of Magicka. Now, this makes it sound like it's a physical place, like a house you walk into, but it's not. It is merely recognition and basically learning the little tricks. These would be, like, I guess if you're like in a martial arts school, these are the secret techniques.
No, they're essentially belts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a belt system, but the mechanical benefit, like, it comes from something.
Oh, sure. Well, the idea of, like, just to go along with that metaphor, you could be a white belt, so the first belt, and kick everyone's ass.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen, because that person is a black belt in like 3 other schools. So that idea of, like, your belt is just a ranking system that shows how how many of the secrets do you know up to that point?
Right.
And these are standardized secrets. So you could have a black belt, the stereotypical one who's like sitting there, he's like got the big belly and hasn't moved for like 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're clearly not a big threat, but technically they know a bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
And that doesn't really exist in this game. Like if you're a mage of the 4th house, you're pretty much a badass, unless, I don't know. We just haven't dealt with that.
Yeah. We really haven't dealt with people that lose their house or get like,
The reason
demoted.
The reason for this is the original way. So this is the problem. A lot of times mechanics, actually maybe all times, mechanics in the game should solve a problem or deal with an issue.
Should this be plural?
Any Zen, anyone who considers themselves, any Zen. That is a single, isn't it?
It is themselves. I don't know. It
It's
just
kinda
feels
weird, isn't it?
weird. Themselves would work. It's not. I mean, it's not
Change it.
grammatically
Doesn't matter
incorrect.
to me.
It just feels weird to me.
Sure.
Um,
I think it's a contested thing to say themselves or themself.
yeah.
Anyway, so back to what I was saying. Any mechanic should be addressing an issue in the game or solving a problem. And this mechanic actually solves the problem of, in Magicka, when you advance, if you're not careful as an arbiter, as the game master, we call those arbiters, if you're not careful as an arbiter, within 4 or 5 games, anyone who's playing a mage will be a master mage. Like, that's it. They advance incredibly fast. Because you advance in DreadLore by achieving your goals, and then you just get to pick the new thing, the next thing on the list. Well, there's only so many new things. Whereas in a game like D&D, where you have to wait on your level, right? You have to wait to get to the next level. Or a game like White Wolf, where you have to wait to get enough points to spend for the next level. And each level costs more and more and more points. Like,
in first edition, it did.
oh, does it not in the second?
They got rid of Excalate. They got rid of it
Well, just as an
in
example.
second edition stuff.
There's many ways to deal with this. The whole point of doing that is to make players have more of a slope when it comes to their advancement. So it's not just, and now I'm super good. Well, as we've said, Magicka, it's not spells, they're discoveries. And a player playing a mage, eventually they get to the point where the player realizes, oh, these are just tools in a toolbox. I can kind of do whatever I want within the bounds of this scroll, within the bounds of these discoveries. For example, if you have some sort of magicka that allows you to influence a kind of mind control, you could say, okay, I control their mind. I do the Jedi hand wave and I control their mind. But there's a point where you're like, well, wait a minute. If I can control people's minds, could I create illusions? Well, you can't create illusions that are physically there, but you can definitely make people think things are there, which are illusions. Oh, can I make everyone think that I'm not there? Can I obfuscate myself? Yeah, you can literally obfuscate yourself. So you start getting into a mage, the player, using the tools that they have in creative ways. What we don't have is a whole slew list of spells that you can do. We do have a list of discoveries that kind of every mage eventually will come to the realization of, or if you go to mage school, like a mage's college, eventually you start learning about these. So there's spell books and grimoires and such, that have, oh, so-and-so, the master mage of the 4th house or 5th house, was able to teleport. And they might call it teleportation. We call it skirting the veil. Right? So,
And
yeah.
and just to piggyback on that, the reason why we do try to avoid the word spell is because of that creativity that he's talking about. when you start in our experience through playtesting this, when you start referring to the bounds of possibility in terms of spells, then it hems people in artificially.
Yeah.
So
they assume things.
Yeah, we want the players to know that as long as they can justify their creativity,
Go on.
as long as they can justify their creativity, as in this thing that I want to accomplish is within the bounds of the circle of Magicka that I'm using. As long as that's in the clear, we're good. Do you have the appropriate level of manipulation? Are you using the correct circle of Magicka? Oh, then yeah, absolutely. You can do that. Roll chaos. Make sure your face doesn't explode. Right? All right. Well, you don't have illusions yet, but you do have mind control. So you can make that one person see a thing that's not there. You just can't make a room full of people see a thing because you're not refracting light. You're messing with their brain.
So a common question to an arbiter might be, I'm a phantasms mage. I deal with phantasms and specifically illusions and these kinds of things. Okay, can I?
I think they're the ones that do mind control too.
They do.
Yeah. Just different discoveries.
Can I make this guy think that I'm someone else? The arbiter could say, yeah, sure. What do you bid? I bid, what is it? Eidetic memory. So I know what the guy looks like exactly. I'm gonna make myself in this guy's eye, make myself look exactly like this other guy. Yeah? I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude.
Disguised as another dude.
Arbiter says, cool. Let's say you have to throw down. You throw down your dice. The threshold is whatever. So that's how you can deal with that situation. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The arbiter, you could also get much more narrative with it and say, okay, well, what's your manipulation? The guy's like, oh, I have the first rank of it. Gross. Is it gross or humble?
Rank 1.
No, who knows? Rank 1. So the arbiter could say, well, you can fashion some sort of haze in the guy's mind, but you just don't have the right control, the right manipulation to be able to make yourself look like someone else. So the player has to say, okay, well, how can I think outside the box here? Do I actually have to look like this other guy, or do I just have to convince the guard that I was that guy? Oh, wait, I don't have to do the... You don't see me. Oh, yeah, there's something over here, and he looks the other way. And so you as that player advances their character, eventually, maybe they gain that, right? They come to naturally figure out their kind of own way of doing Magicka. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole point.
And we've seen people take these circles of Magicka and play wildly different characters with these circles. And because you have a lot of agency and a lot of leeway in what you can do with them. And the circles do overlap in some regard. I mean, there's some kinds of... There are some effects that I think players take for granted if they're coming from games like D&D.
Fireball.
I mean, you can do Firewall in DreadLore, but druidic shapeshifting and things like that. There are some...
Yeah, don't try to shapeshift.
Yeah, there are some spells that are very difficult to emulate in DreadLore, and there's a reason for that within the lore, and it's simply that Magicka is it's the fractured pieces of a whole, and that original pure magic is pretty much inaccessible to mortals. They get pieces of it, and it's more powerful if they're wielding it together. But it's very taxing to do that. It takes extra time. You need instruments, all of that stuff.
What's the idea of So we go to D&D because it's ubiquitous.
Yeah.
But, and so many things are based on it. DreadLore would be considered, I would say, a soft magic system. So if you know what a hard magic system is and a soft magic system, D&D is a hard magic system. DreadLore is a soft magic system. To put this in terms that a greater audience would understand, anything Tolkien, so Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, that is soft magic, or soft magic, right? There you go. To a degree, Star Wars is soft magic. It at least started out that way.
Until they started making games and stuff out of it, where they started categorizing the Force in terms of, well, first you learn control, and then sense, and then alter.
And that's when it becomes hard magic. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I'm trying to think of a film that has a hard magic system. Maybe
Dungeons and Dragons, the movie?
Well, yeah, but I mean,
It's got one of the Wayans brothers in it, I think.
Really?
No.
No.
And Jeremy Irons.
What's another magic-y type movie? Oh, Harry Potter. Yeah,
Yeah.
Harry Potter is a hard magic system. Now, it skirts
Good
the,
call.
it blurs the line here and there when it needs to. For instance, some wizards just don't have to do Leviosa to make all the things happen. So it blurs the line, but the point is, hard magic is going to be like, here's your spell, this is exactly what it does, boom. Soft magic is like in Star Trek Next Generation. Deanna Troi, she has empathy. Well, sometimes it's right here. Sometimes she can literally be, 1,000 miles away from a world and be talking to someone. Right? So it's blurring the lines, and it's very blurry in this guy.
And a lot of that is because we want those choices to be a very simple exchange between the player and the arbiter. Arbiter says, okay, what do you want to do? What are you not even what do you want to do, but what are you trying to accomplish? Okay, what do you bid to accomplish it? Right? So it's, I want to get by this guard using my Phantasm's Magicka. Oh, great. What do you bid? And are you trying to appear as someone? And that's when it starts getting more interesting and more fulfilling. But it really does start off with, what is it that you want? And now, how are you going to accomplish that? And by phrasing it in that way, it encourages more. I mean, it can be intimidating, yes, but it does encourage more creativity and agency with the player, as opposed to saying, okay, what spell do you cast? Okay, are you using a feat for this? Are you using your attack action? Do you have extra attack yet? Because then you get 2 attacks on your attack action. Is that confusing? Oh, well, as a bonus action, you can, if you've taken the attack action, then for your action, then as a bonus action, if you've got another weapon in your offhand, then you can get a 3rd attack.
You get into legalese real fast. And mind you, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people like RPGs, role-playing games, that are actually just board games.
We played 5th edition last night. We're not really making fun of it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. And DreadLore puts a lot more impetus on the player. And it's not as scary as it might seem. For example, the same player that might buck at the idea of saying, okay, well, I want to get past the guard, just tell me what spell I need to do it, will then go and play a video game where it's an over-the-shoulder video game like Skyrim or something, and they'll have invisibility, which will make their character invisible, but then they have to go through the motions of sneaking past the guard. And if they screw up, they get, found out and the dinosaurs come out or whatever the hell happens. The weird thing, though, is in tabletop RPGs, so often those moments where you actually have to do the thing are just skirted over. So it's like, okay, roll the die. Yeah, you hit him. It's like, but, well, what actually happens? And in the video game, you have to, okay, I hit the button, do I win? Well, then you don't like the game, unless you're like me and you watch the cutscenes. So I think that it's a mind-altering experience. It's a perspective switch. When you're playing this game, it's like a capital RPG, versus lowercase RPG. Like, the point is, what are you trying to accomplish? How do you do it? That's it. You're not really trying to convince the arbiter of 2 + 2 = 4. See, the mechanics say I can do it. You're trying to tell the arbiter and the players, this is what you see me do. And then if rolls need to be made, you got to throw down to, get past the threshold. Cool. We'll see what happens. Well, I bid, I'm impatient. I try to turn myself invisible and move past the guy, is going to play out a lot differently than I'm incredibly patient. I turn myself invisible and sneak past the guy. Yet it's the same spell, or so. Okay.
It was a bad movie, Daniel.
Yeah, the D&D movie was.
Oh, you did see it.
I did see it. I'll give the D&D movie this much credit. In a world of high magic, high fantasy, of course the wizards would be the rulers. That makes sense. And in the D&D movie, wizards are the aristocracy, and they subjugate everyone else because they're wizards. They can literally do anything. And this was my point, even bringing up D&D and hard magic. In Dungeons and Dragons, spells can pretty much reproduce anything. So, if somebody can heal something, well, then you can have a healing spell. You can put that in a bottle and have a healing juice, right? Or a healing shot, or a healing gun, or whatever. Anything and everything can be done with magic in Dungeons and Dragons. Not so in DreadLore. Alright, let's actually get through this. Did you stop here?
Yeah. This felt weird when I read it, so I added some words.
Okay.
Fewer still have entered on their own accord because of some special talent in the art of Magicka. It said on their own accord and special talent.
Oh, okay.
And it parsed weird.
Sure.
So I clarified what was meant, is all.
Question, are we going to talk at all about hedge wizards? Are we going to get into that and clarify that differentiation of those are the wizards those are the mages that didn't go to school, they just kind of figured it out in the country, or maybe they had a book but they didn't have a mentor. Because that's one of the things in the game is if you take the mage background, there's certain things you can take, certain gifts, and that has to do with you came from a mage's college, so you know a lot more discoveries than most people, and you probably have certain items, instruments of Magicka that they don't, and you have a standing in the houses and all kinds of stuff that literally makes you, more powerful, right? More learned and all these sorts of things. And so anyone else would be considered a hedge wizard, and we've dealt with different ways of.
It's the same thing as like a hedge knight versus a knight of one of the noble houses, right? Do you sleep under a hedge?
Right. And should that be manifest in a mechanical sense or more of just a narrative sense? I lean towards the narrative.
I lean towards the narrative as well. There's room to add more mechanics, but I don't know that it's going to improve the gameplay experience to do that. I think just being a hedge wizard and coming from doing it the hard way adds some interesting narrative opportunity and bidding that would differentiate those two characters. A traditionally schooled mage versus School of Hard Knocks, right? The latter player character is going to have a lot of different, a lot of their character traits that they're bidding are going to be wildly different from someone who was more privileged. And that will impact the play. Because the great thing about DreadLore, and the number one thing to take away from this system, is the bidding of those character traits. Whatever players have written on their sheet, that is inevitably going to be the driving factor for how they're playing the character and the choices that they make. Because, if you've got a character sheet that's full of a bunch of traits that describe how big and strong you are, then you're going to lean into that. And it's a choice that you made. It's not like that was taken from you, but that supports the character choices that you made before, and you're going to continue down that road unless something in the narrative changes the character because it's impactful or significant, and they switch their focus.
Right.
And that happens a lot, and that's great. Those are some beautiful moments in the role play with character development. But that character is going to be very different from someone who, just hedge wizard versus, a collegiate wizard. In the latter case, they're going to have backgrounds and traits focused more on getting by the skin of their teeth. They're going to have traits about being resourceful and being clever and quick-witted, or sneaky. They may have some thief abilities or things like that, or maybe they're just really likable or lucky and they came across a grimoire. The other person is going to have perhaps some wealth, maybe come from a noble line. They're probably more urban, an urbanite, and they'll probably have more traits focused on the actual Magicka, and they won't be as well-rounded. But those are two very different play experiences, and I think the mechanic is in the character traits.
So, Dragon of Tyr is someone that Casey and I know, and really cool guy. So, we're just reading that real quick.
Yeah.
Since you're pretty much talking about that.
Exactly. So, Dringer, hello. Hi. Are there not inherent magics one would learn over the other in the absence of school rules? So that comes down to discoveries, and discoveries are basically the expertise ranks for Magicka Expertise. They are example effects that you can create as your Magicka gets more powerful and as you continue to advance your character's power through Magicka. And there is an open dialogue between the players and the Arbiter in DreadLore campaigns. And so if it's, hey, the way that I cast spells is this, and there's not a discovery for that, then you and the Arbiter can make one up that you can advance into. That is something that we encourage, and it works really well in practice. Those other discoveries are great, but those are the traditional ones. And if that's not how your character uses the Magicka, because I'll, like I said before, like we were talking about, players using the same kinds of Magicka use them very differently, even in the same campaign.
Well, so for an example, if you don't mind me interjecting.
No, go ahead.
The way you make any major action, so the way that you affect the environment in the game, whether you're doing Magicka or slinging a sword across a room or talking to someone or drinking your beer, if you're making a major action, then you are affecting your environment somehow, and that requires a bit of a character trait. The game is all about character traits. Mm-hmm. So if you're casting or using Magicka in some way, then you're bidding one of your character traits. It doesn't have to be a Magicka discovery or a trait gotten from Magicka. It could have to do with the fact that you grew up as an underdog, as a street rat, in Agrabah, and broke into a wizard's tower, stole the book, learned some wizard shit, and now you're bidding your cunning, which is probably a bad word to use in this game, but bidding, your shrewdness and whatnot, your wiliness, to cast the spell, right? So that completely changes the narrative of that Magicka. Mm-hmm. And depending on the situation, can be really great or really bad. If you've seen Samurai Champloo, you know what I'm talking about? Where I'm going with this?
Oh yeah.
The idea of, you have the Kenjutsu guy, samurai, it's or is it Kendo?
The one in blue.
Yeah, the one in blue. You got
the tight ass with the glasses.
Yeah, you've got the hard-boiled, straight up, straight-laced sword guy, and then you have the ruffian, and they have completely different styles, but they both murder the shit out of everything. They would have the same discoveries in swordplay in DreadLore, but they would be bidding different traits to accomplish those goals. And by dint of that, as they advance and gain new discoveries, they would be creating different ones based on the core. It's Kenjutsu, right on.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. We don't know what we're talking about. All right, so we're gonna roll through here.
Kendo and Kenjutsu are different.
Yeah, Kendo I think is the sport version.
It's the sport.
He has done a lot of interesting things. Okay, let's go down here. I don't know. I don't want to dox anybody. Is the reason.
Yeah. Normally, only mages who have braved the intense scrutiny of the mages' colleges. Each house confers a new level of respect, awareness, and Oxford comma and control over Magicka a mage can cast. As such, mages of higher houses tend to grasp new concepts with greater ease and proficiency. A mage must meet the prerequisites for a house before attempting to enter it. Entering a new house replaces the mage's old house. As I'm gonna join these sentences
Do your thing, man.
because it'll flow better. As greater houses are more powerful, the mage does not lose anything by entering a higher one. However, she may only possess one house trait at a time. And the trait that you get with these houses are of the first house or of the second house.
We should probably say that.
Yeah. So the prerequisites, you must pass a number of tests before you enter a house of Magicka. You have to have a certain number of discoveries as dictated by the house, and you have to have stories. So if you think about the traditional fantasy trope, or some of the ways that the Norsemen, the old Vikings, are talked about, where your legacy is the stories that people tell about you. The great
Everyone has two
accomplishments.
deaths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The when you die and when the last time someone says your name.
Right.
So these stories of great feats you have accomplished using Magicka. So specifically, they have to be feats of Magicka, and you have to have performed a certain number of them. It's 5 times the number of the house.
Now that's just how it is written now. That's something that we may need to deal with.
Yeah.
Because, as we were mentioning before, these prerequisites and specifically the houses has been something that we have alpha tested. Question. As greater houses are more powerful, the mage does not lose anything by entering a higher one. However, she may only possess one. Right. Just to stay in line with what we're doing. One house trait at a time. We should give an example here of what that means.
Mm.
Despite it literally saying like first house in blocks,
Yeah.
that it's also a title. So, I think we should have an example there.
Well, what we need to do is make it,
Down there.
yeah, like if we
Or
did
just of the first house.
of the first
Yeah.
house in blocks and then make those normal,
Yeah, that's a
like
good
get
idea.
rid of the
That's a good idea.
hyphenations and everything. Honestly, I think we because
We
this
don't
is a
need that,
clarification.
You're right. You're right. That
Yeah.
that moment at the top. As such, mages of higher houses tend to grasp new concepts with greater ease and proficiency. That does make sense.
It's more fluff though. It's not represented in the.
Yeah. Maybe each new house confers a new level of respect, awareness, and control over Magicka that a mage can cast. How about each house is thought to confer. Like if there's a little bit of conjecture there. And the idea of normally only mages who have braved the intense scrutiny of the mages colleges are allowed entry into the houses. Okay, we've done that. Cool. So we've said that you don't have to have gone
Yeah.
to whatever. It confers a new level of respect, awareness, control over Magicka that a mage can cast. I mean, that is
what you get.
That is what you get. Such mages tend to grasp the concepts. I think having some fluff there is a good idea, but it just needs to not be so concrete. It needs to be, hey, this is fluff. And we can have a juxtaposition too. As such, it's said that mages of higher houses tend to grasp new concepts with greater ease and proficiency, although something like plenty of profound, what am I trying to think of? Profound discoveries have been developed by hedge wizards. Something like that.
Yeah, I like it. Although many profound discoveries have been created by hedge wizards, and often mages of the houses will plateau and cease to progress their skills.
Let's do it. So this is the 15th game talk that we've done, and there'll be many more because there's a lot more book. This particular module of the book, Magicka, or Magickal Expertise, as we're now calling it, it's a bit of a bear because of things like this. Magicka in any role-playing game system, or I should say the magic system in any RPG, it's either very granular, or when you're dealing with soft magic, if you're not careful, it either becomes way too powerful, or it becomes just a bother to even do. That's a good question. What is an example of a great feat using Magicka equal to the house for a new character?
So maybe that may be a syntax clarification we need to make, but also it's not.
Well, he's talking about down here.
I know.
Oh, okay.
He's saying a great feat equal to the house.
Oh.
Right. It's saying that you need to have achieved a number of them equal to the house times 5. So if the house is the second house, then you need 2 times 5, so 10 great feats. However, you do raise a good point. The feats need to be great relative to you.
That's a good point.
A feat that is great for a farmhand is not great for Hercules. A Herculean task is what Hercules has to achieve. But your characters aren't always going to be that strong. You're not going to be demigods. So
we need to explain that.
But it's again, you raise a good point, and we need to split that. But the long and short of it is, a great feat is a worthy accomplishment.
Yep.
So my Magicka slayed the learning in Hydra, right? Who cares how many heads it can regenerate if I atomize it with my fire? Fixed, right? I vaporized the water and its body.
But
no
once
more
you
heads.
did that, then disposing of the Dread Pirate Roberts is not a great feat anymore.
Unless you take out the whole fleet with it.
I mean, if it's the fleet, sure.
Yeah. The fleet of the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Right. So that's
I heard
something.
that man was an admiral. I heard it wasn't a man at all.
That's something that does need to be described, and since we're in the houses and we're talking about great feats, it probably should be described here.
Yeah.
Especially if we're going to keep this rather clumsy, all but very cool rule.
Yeah.
So the prerequisite being, a new player is going to say, okay, I need 5 of these things, what are they? So I can get the next thing.
Let's see if that answered their question. They haven't responded yet. Okay. No, you're absolutely right. So, do we talk about? Okay, we do. I
And-
like this. A certain number of discoveries is dictated by the house. We should just put a certain number of great feats accomplished with Magicka. And we don't need successfully.
Truth. They do not need to be successful, which is great.
Well, I think accomplishment is the key word there.
Well, for instance, Domney in one of our other games would definitely say that he accomplished a great feat by destroying one of the beams of the world. And that's what his intention was.
Yeah.
But he did not intend on murdering 150,000 people.
Well, he did. He just didn't care.
Eh, I think if he could have stopped it, he would have.
He rationalized it by saying they were all.
He didn't even try to stop it.
he said they were all demons.
Right.
And
They're
we
demons.
multiple times tried to tell him, no, there are people, normal people that live on there, and the army that's referred to as the demon army is mostly full of regular people. They're not demons. Most of them, they might be like corrupted in some cases, but most of them are just normal soldiers.
Yep.
And you're just killing people.
Well, he's a bad guy.
He's a bad man.
Okay,
So a certain number of discoveries, it should be a certain number of great feats. We need to get you a little table on this side.
Now, I know you like symmetry, but stories of great feats is way cooler.
Well, I'm trying to deflect if we get rid of the equation part, that fixes the confusing syntax. But I mean, we can put that. I'm not opposed to it. A certain number of stories of great feats accomplished using Magicka.
Okay, so we need to define... Discoveries is fine. We need to define stories... define great feats.
Right.
Or at least give... Actually, your description was great. Great. Feat. Funny. That it's completely relative to who your character is and what they've done before.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to climb higher on the ladder.
Yeah. I think to make it simpler, it's, maybe based off of the houses themselves. Like, whatever house you're at, you have to do better. So first house shit isn't going to cut it to get through the third house.
That's true, but it adds in a certain level of complexity. For
I
example...
don't think it takes away. Because if as a character, you constantly have to do better and better and better and better and better, that limits where that makes you what I don't want to encourage is accidental min-maxing. Of you have to be combat focused, or you have to be focused on these great feats at the expense of all else, and you don't have opportunity, you can't allow yourself the indulgence of advancing into a well-rounded character.
Actually, I think it should be that you have to constantly push the envelope to gain, to get to a higher house, because the houses are not natural progressions. As in, just because you're a mage and you're gaining discoveries, does not mean you're ever going to get a higher house.
Mm-hmm.
Just like for instance in D&D, if you're level 1, if you play long enough, you will be level 10.
What I specifically mean is that if the greatness of the feat is based off of needs to be better than the one you just did, it really limits what people will be comfortable advancing into. Because it's not just a great feat of diplomacy or of something else. It's specifically of Magicka. Mm-hmm. And to accomplish greater and greater feats, you need to have more and more power.
So we have to have a certain
So-
exhaustive list
well-
based on the houses.
Well, I don't think so. What I'm saying is the degree of greatness shouldn't be based off of the feat you just did. It should be based off of what house you're aspiring to. As in, it doesn't have to be better than the one you just did. It has to be better than the ones you did prior to your last advancement, or prior to your last entry into a house, right? So you're going to do a certain kind of feats. You're going to do 5 great feats to get into the first house. And once you're there, you've got to up the ante a bit to get into the second house, because you need 5 more,
Mm-hmm.
but they have to be better. What I don't want to encourage is, in order to get to the first house, you have to do 5 increasingly impressive feats. I'd say that over the course of the story, if you do 5 great things and meet the prereqs, and someone is willing to induct you into the first house, then that's great. Once you're there, that's when the ante gets upped. And there are other factors in play here. This is, like he said, it's a soft magic system. It's sort of these are like ground rules.
Well,
Guidelines.
We're deciding the ground rules right
Well,
now.
what I mean is a lot of this is, I mean, they're game rules and mechanics, but they are more like guidelines in some ways, because you can take that same example, and let's say that you're speeding through these great feats to get to the first house, and you get your 5, you're a fast rising star, you get to the first house, and you're moving on. Same character, same situation, same aspiration, but you are slow and it takes you 30 years to move through those 5 great feats. Then yeah, they have to be better. Then the next one has to be better than the former, right? But that's a different story, and it's told on a different timeline, and I think that changes the narrative a little bit.
Yeah, I enjoy the idea of what if no feats for first house, but 5 feats using first house magic to get into second house, and so on. So he brings up the point that I'm kind of pushing on. You should push progression and allow narrative character story arcs. Right.
No, he's asking if it's something a new player could start with,
I see.
that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Right.
a new character could start at a higher house.
I mean, the feats that you accomplished to get the first and second houses, or to get whatever houses you're entering play with, those would be part of your backstory. And if it was starting at a high enough power level or high enough level of advanced characters that you realistically could start with a house, then I don't see any problem with it. It would just count as one of your advancements that you have to spend, a character creation, I guess. But you may be setting yourself up for failure if you're really grandiose. But I think that comes down to a conversation between you and the Arbiter about the story you're wanting to tell and everything else.
So this is back to what I was saying. When classifying what constitutes a great feat so that you can get into another house.
Right.
I think that it should be based on the character and what they've accomplished. So,
Yes.
right? So the idea, as in like, how powerful or how great, how do you measure that? We could say, okay, well, the proper feats for first house should look like this. Here are some examples. We do that for manipulation.
Mhm.
Same thing for second house, and we go through all the houses and say, here are the proper things. That could work. It's a little bit more work to do, to actually describe it.
Mhm.
That is possible to do. Person comes in, rising star, like you'd mentioned, does an amazing feat like Gohan going Super Saiyan 2. It's a huge thing that no one's ever done, easily a 6th house thing, but he actually just gets into the first house because he's just starting out, right? And then he plateaus and becomes a big schmuck towards the end of the series. Regardless, when I came up with this idea, my sort of rudimentary feel for it was, and this was also in the middle of a game when we started instigating it or instituting it. So that may be why I had this thought process. The idea of saying, okay, well, for your stories as a beginning character, you just made your character. What, based on your backgrounds and all these things that you choose when you make a character creation or when you make your character, or based middle of the game, the things that you've literally done in game, you want to advance into the next house, which is a mechanical thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you meet the prerequisites? And as the arbiter, I would say, okay, well, you need, by the rules, this many great stories. More. Because your second house, you need to go in the third. So you need, what is it? Is it 15?
No.
Yeah. So,
It really
recount,
is 5 for every house.
So, recount to me, what are your great deeds? And this would be during the montage. So there's 3 modes of play. There's the dread where you're playing, there's throwing down where you're throwing dice, and there's the montage where you suspend bidding traits, you suspend making major actions, and it's like a campfire scene. During the montage, when you can advance, okay, declare your stories. What are they? Tell everyone. Or, write them in your book, right? You're declaring your stories, and you have, like Don Quixote, you make yourself the third house. Whatever it is. The thing is, that's a time that everyone can weigh. Well, yeah, you did murder the Hydra with a big old firebomb of combustion. But, you've done things like that. That's really not a great deed. Because the idea is that it's all about yourself and your journey. Now, absolutely you can say, well, that was a huge thing that other third house whatever people did, and so that works as a great deed. But I don't think it needs to necessarily say, first house deeds look like this, second house deeds look like this, third house deeds look like this. And
no,
I also...
that feels wrong to me anyway.
And
so with that, we do agree.
Right.
I think making that...
What do we disagree on?
I think it comes down to...
everything.
So... the difference is this: the degree of greatness, those feats need to build on each other, but the progression should not be stifling to character development. Outside of, listen, if you're aspiring to like the 4th house, you need to, like, that is your life, that is what you're doing with it, right? So to an extent, yes, you are playing a character who will specialize.
Yeah, I mean,
right, but
4th house is huge.
Yeah, like that may not be within the scope of the campaign, but that is what your character is doing throughout the campaign, is gunning for that house of Magicka. Okay, fantastic. Well, we know what you're investing in, but the progression of greatness should still allow the player to not have to min-max, because I don't ever want to encourage min-maxing.
I agree.
And so if it really is, okay, great, well, you killed the Lernian Hydra, now find something bigger and badder to slay, well,
that's the thing, though.
So my
you
problem,
won't find anything like that.
Yeah. Well, that is where I'm going with it. Even if you did, the thing is your character's not any stronger, right? And than they were when they killed the Hydra, and in that way it stifles progress and can be it can be an unwelcome play experience, and that's why I'm saying the degree of greatness needs to take into consideration more than what you did last.
It needs to challenge you.
It needs to challenge you as a character, but it needs to take into consideration how much time has passed. Like, if you are a stronger person and it's been a few years or a few seasons, then yeah, it needs to be markedly better. But if you go through and, slay the demons of 3 capital cities in a week that have been plaguing them for generations, then each one of those individual tasks is a great deed,
I agree.
and doing it in a week is another one in and of itself. And that's what I mean. Like, it needs to take into consideration more than just what you did last. It needs to be about on what scale of time was it done and everything else.
I think this can be accomplished, describing this can be accomplished through a couple examples. And then, as is done in the montage, that's when it's weighed. You are weighed in the balances, and do your great deeds suffice?
Yeah. I don't know that it's never been problematic in the play experience in terms of does it work, does it fly or not.
No, in fact, players have simply asked me, hey, does this count? And I'm like, well, do you think it is greater than this? Do you think it's on the same level as this?
Yeah.
And usually players are like, yeah. And then you have some players, whose names I will not say, who really just want the next level. And I say, okay, well, 2 of that, we'll call it a great deed. We need to describe what that means.
Yeah.
Probably.
Ultimately,
Here.
this is in the realm. Where we put, what is it?
I'm going to say, what is great deed?
Do we want to just put it in the prereqs where we introduce the idea?
What is a great deed? Right now? No. I just want that to actually be written. I've said it like 3 times. Motherfucker.
My point to you all is this. This falls in the realm of exactly why we call our game masters or dungeon masters arbiters instead. This falls squarely in the realm of arbitration. A final decision being made by the arbiter as to whether or not an action or an accomplishment qualifies as a great deed or great feat. I like great deeds.
Great deed is pretty good. We
Yeah.
just have beat.
Yeah. Let me change it. Use them buttery fingers and change it.
Boom.
There we go. Great feed.
God, the great
Yes.
feed, yes.
The hunger. Give me them deeds, girl.
Give them deeds.
No.
Okay,
so,
let's get down to and actually saying what these things are. And that'll...
Okay. Let me just... you all know on the live stream what a great deed is. We've talked about it. We can put it in the book later. I don't think we need that.
You don't think so?
Well, it's because the trait is of the...
But you don't want to be mage of the...
I don't know.
Yeah, it's fine.
It can go either way. Which way do you like it?
I mean, if I saw this, I would say, oh, the trait is called of the first house.
Exactly.
Right.
Does
That's
that
cool.
work for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Motherfucker. Oh, you're right. Hyphens. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
And to answer your question, is it Junger?
his name's Chris.
Okay.
Junger.
To answer your
Consider great
question
feats more like
from
canvas.
before, you need great feats to be a mage of the first house because it's not something that all mages are able to gain entry into. You don't get it by dint of being able to use Magicka.
Right.
You can. Some people will just have that innately, but that doesn't mean they're respected in the magical community. They're not. They may not have peers. So
he actually brings up an interesting formatting idea.
about the milestones.
No, not the milestones. The idea of, at this point, if a person has never seen DreadLore, they've read a lot about what Magicka is.
Mm-hmm.
they're seeing, mage of the first house, all these things, manipulation, etc. But it's still a very abstract idea of what Magicka is. I wonder if this should actually be positioned somewhere else in the book.
After all the magic.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. That works for me. I had a feeling that's where you were going with that.
And that's why I wanted to move through it, because at this point, I think you and we know what we're talking about with great deeds, but I think we should keep on going to actually let them know, oh, this is what Magicka is.
When we think of great deeds, we think of things like the Herculean tasks, but you trim it down and rescale it for less heroic people.
Mage of the first house. Okay, a mage of the first house is finally considered a student. The honor of gaining this title is not administered until one's third year at the official College of Magicka. Those who have yet begun to knock on the door of wisdom hardly have the right to call themselves mages. And that is actually a quote. We don't have to be married to that at all. Mm-hmm. And I mean, as you go down, you can see that it's really scant, these descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I just picked third year.
Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, there's like 8 years.
I think that actually came from the murder mystery game where we were all students at the Arcanist College. Yeah. And there was like a ghost or something.
Yep.
And I remember the game, the campaign name had like a candle, the word candle in it or something.
It was oh crap. What do we call it? Fantasy punk, but there's not steampunk. There's not candlelight punk, gaslight.
A gaslight murder.
A gaslight murder. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's why I'm thinking of candles.
So
the lights.
Yeah, this probably should be changed here. Like saying it's literally the third year is not a good idea.
Well, that's from a certain perspective, and we make it a quote, then it makes sense. But we just have to format it as a quote.
Okay,
like,
well, that's just Mr. Nightshade.
Yeah.
Boom.
And then put quotation marks around it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think it's actually 14. The font is 14. Stay away. Boom. No, fuck it. We should definitely, I should say, have descriptions underneath all of these, which we can do off stream. Should this be right here? That's usually where it would be.
What?
The quotes would normally be where these headings are at the top, and not beneath each one of these. These would just be descriptions.
That's what we should do.
Yeah. Which means we probably should actually change this a little bit.
And we'll need to untradify that word. But
bam. The stream. Okay.
This.
Oh yeah. He's shouting at you. Of the first house.
There we go.
Finally considered a student the honor of gaining this title. How about, in my opinion, since it's a quote, the honor of gaining this title.
In our opinion.
In our opinion. Should not be administered until at least one's third year.
No, until one's third year.
Until one's third year at an official College of Magicka. Those who have yet to begin, right?
Those who have yet begun to knock on the door of wisdom.
There's the two. Hardly have the right to call themselves mages. Yeah, that's good. Did I just put an F somewhere?
You did.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So yeah, this is what these are doing right now. They're giving the crunch, and really nothing else.
I don't think they need to give anything else.
Yeah, they may not. I like the idea of well, no, I think it should. I think it should have a description of, and then within that description you can give the actual trait that's given. One, because it's, you know, how the rest of the book works, but two, what are you? Oh, is this not a heading?
No.
Oh, okay. And two, because it kind of describes, oh, you're of the first house, and therefore, you know, you get into cocktail parties. Like you're, you know, invited to, like you're a citizen of the U.S., you can go into the embassy. Oh, you're of the second house, you can go into the libraries and, you know, you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I think some fluff is warranted here,
It's
But-
certainly beneficial.
but we don't need to have it at this time.
It's just, it
That's
seems
fine.
faster.
You
It seemed faster to me to do it this way
Yeah.
than get rid of all, to type it out manually.
It's all good.
Oop.
So essentially, what the houses do, in a mechanical way, is if you are of a higher house, you can cast Magicka, or you can use your Magicka with fewer penalties. That's basically what it is. It changes how far away you can affect people. What the area of effect can be, and all of that kind of stuff. It just makes it, instead of having to spend your successes to create those effects, like I'm gonna use biomancy to heal myself. Great. Well, I want to heal someone who's a short distance away or a medium distance away. Well, normally you would have to spend successes to cast that Magicka at a medium distance. If you're of a higher house of Magicka, you don't have to. You get it for free.
Mm-hmm.
So up to a certain range increment, you can just do it, and so you're spending those successes instead of on range or distance, on potency or whatever you want. So here are the range increments that, you know, we just redid, and that's why we're looking them up again.
So why is...
What?
So this is a heading,
It does it automatically.
and this isn't.
Yeah, that's its own little way of doing stuff, and I have not figured out why Docs does that. But it's not that important right now, anyway.
No, I came down here to look at the...
Yeah.
Because it's referencing something that we don't have anymore.
Oh, you mean the
Close,
weird
close distance.
Yeah. I think it'd be point blank.
It would be.
So another idea is that a mage is significantly more powerful
Actually, just be sure.
with
Because what is the distance that you would...
a mage is significantly more powerful with their instruments. Casting short distance. Yeah, you're right. So
So you
casting
need-
short distances does not cost any extra successes, and then it just kind of goes up from there.
Yeah. So you need 4 discoveries from 1 scroll of Magicka.
Which again is not necessarily a good rule. It was just for that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
I actually do think we should when it comes to the stories, I think it's fine. When it comes to the discoveries, I think that actually it encourages people to stick with scrolls, but in a way, it encourages maximizing. I'm not sure. It seems a little ham-fisted.
I don't know. 8 discoveries from 1 scroll is pretty intense.
It's big time.
Yeah. I think honestly it's because it's the expectation. This is sort of muddling a game mechanic with in-world logic, which we do a lot, and it's intentional. But this may not be a benefit in this case. The idea would be, these houses were created by the Mystics in 12 and 7. These are hardline traditionalists that, in the common era of play, don't exist anymore as a recognized institution. Yeah. So their assumption is that you are enrolled in a college to learn about one slice of this pie that we call Magicka. You're looking at one aspect of it, and you are devoting your life to that. The realistic, realistically, people outside of player characters are not going to be good enough or crazy enough or have the opportunity to have such a broad experience with multiple circles of Magicka. And I think that this rule about these discoveries needing to come from one of the scrolls comes from that in-world bias. So
just peek into the stream.
I'm ruining the stream for a second to say, hi, Chris, I love you and I miss you. Bye. That is all. Thank you.
So, yeah, we could change it. And then just for clarification, we've talked about this before on previous streams, but scrolls of Magicka are the broad subsection. They are essentially broken down into things like gray or bright or natural or unnatural, and there are multiple types of Magicka within each scroll. So you can have 2 or 3 different kinds of Magicka and go from there. So if you're doing unnatural Magicka, you get Void and Phantasms and Deathmech, which is the other half of Biomancy or Necromancy. So you have 3 closely related kinds of Magicka that you can delve into in that one scroll to advance your house. The alternative argument, playing devil's advocate, apparently with myself, is the reason why it's set up this way is because in order to be good enough to be considered for one of these houses, you have to have developed a certain level of expertise. And if you are studying a broad array of Magicka, then you won't have developed that level of insight that's expected of an expert. And so you won't have, to use a game term as something else, you won't have sufficient expertise to be respected as a member of like the second or third house. So to catch you up, because I'm near playing devil's advocate with myself for their sake.
How would you be playing devil's advocate?
So the scrolls. Your discovery is coming from a scroll. That's an in-world thing. It's a bias from the Mystics in 12 and 7, them being staunch traditionalists, yada yada yada. It's also the idea that realistically only adventurers and player characters are going to be crazy enough or have opportunity to go into a bunch of different scrolls and study them all and actually develop them. So the other, and in that way, it doesn't necessarily need to be limited to a scroll. The other half of that, though, is the scroll has 2 or 3 circles that are fairly closely related. They complement each other. And the houses are about peerage and respect and recognition. So, and like, it borrows a game term, and I don't mean expertise with a capital E, but this is about being recognized for a certain level of expertise or insight into Magicka. And you don't really get that if you're doing like 1 or 2 discoveries across a bunch of different circles.
Right.
You know? And I think maybe that's where it came from, the idea of it has to come from a scroll. I think anything else would just be something where it's like, wow, no, you've done a lot to advance our field. You're an amazing mage, but you don't meet the prerequisites. But because of your accomplishments, we want to bring you in. You actually have a startling insight into the way that Magicka works.
So
Like,
what do you suggest instead of 4 discoveries from 1 scroll?
I don't know. I mean, I think it can work. I don't have. I like working through it in my head. It makes sense, considering what the houses represent.
Let's move beyond this and put a pin in it. Should this change in some way to promote the prestige / expertise? What was the other word used? Insight. Required. Motherfucker. Required to gain the respect of the community. Boop. Let's go through this.
Yeah.
Essentially what it is, and actually get down to the meat of Magicka.
Right.
And really think about these prerequisites later,
Yeah.
I think.
I'm ambivalent, but I can see why that choice was made.
Yeah.
Is the point?
Yeah.
So the first house, basically, you can cast beyond that initial range increment to short distance without having to. It doesn't make the Magicka harder to use to cast in order to cast outside of yourself or outside of touch range. So that's the benefit, and that's a huge benefit. That's one less success than you need.
Yep.
That you would need. And then we have the prereqs, 4 discoveries, and then 5 stories of great deeds. The second house, you can boost or reduce the area of effect of your magical effects by 1 step for free. Now, normally reducing the range of effect is something that you can do for free regardless. But this is maintained in there just for edge cases. But having that boost, that increase to the area that you can affect is pretty huge, again, and it's another success that you don't need to generate. In this case, you need 4 more discoveries and 5 more stories for 8 and 10 total. The third house, you are casting at, I think it's medium distances.
Yep, it is.
After short.
It's point blank, short, medium, long.
Far, extreme. And we just have the 5,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Point, short, medium, long, far. That's 6.
6, yeah.
I don't really count extreme as a.
Yeah.
Extreme's like the catch-all for whatever's left, whatever's outside. Long. So then you end up with third house cast, like we said, casting at medium distances. So that's 2 successes off your total at this point. And then you need a total of 12 discoveries and 15 stories. And here's where we break down you no longer need to have these discoveries coming from 1 scroll. They can come from multiple scrolls.
Yep.
With Mage of the 4th house, the maximum distance of your magical effects increases to medium plus. This needs to be long. Normally, a mage can cast up to medium distance without the use of instruments and an instrument of Magicka to aid her. Okay. So this is big. It increases the maximum distance you can cast at. It doesn't give you free successes. And the prereqs increase as they have been. Mage of the 5th house, it gives you a second boost or reduction to your area of effect for free. So now you can increase or reduce it, or boost or reduce it by up to 2 steps for free. And casting at long distances does not cost any extra successes.
You see, this is one of those things that when we don't have as many range increments, it kind of breaks down here.
It's cool.
Well, the reason being, all of this is assuming you don't have an instrument.
What I meant was that we just get rid of that one and split fifth house into two things.
Mm.
And that way, because the fifth house was giving you two things, everything else gives you one. Right, so now it's split.
Still, you don't have to do it with instruments, which is fine. It's just really, really, really powerful.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the average play experience, mages, even incredibly powerful mages, they're going to have instruments that give them extra dice, more than likely. It's rare for, it's really rare for mages to have more than 2 or 3 instruments, and maybe one of them will increase their casting range. It doesn't happen very
I'd say
often.
the thing that's true, but it's also because you guys are playing an epic game.
Yeah.
I think the thing that they would be used for is you'd have a staff that gives you like a free success somewhere, or it has a trait in it, and you use that trait for a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so that's the
Or you
sixth
end up
house.
with a magnifying glass that can zoom in, like gives you far sight, and then you're casting at close range all of a sudden.
All right. You guys have to put a lot into this, and it looks awesome. I'll definitely be following this development. Got to go to work. I'll try to hop back on a bit. Stay awesome, my dudes. Dude, thank you so much for coming. It was very awesome to have you here, and actually engaging us with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
absolutely, we'll be back on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Mhm.
So, if you wish, we can give you a link to the book. If you want to follow, you just go to DreadLore.com and go to the link that says the book. But if you actually want to like do some commenting and stuff, we can send you a link for that.
Mhm.
All right. Proper Magicka. So this is probably going to be completely erased. Would you like to read it?
I've been reading. You got it. You go ahead. I'm gonna get some water.
All right. Proper Magicka. Hedge mages versus ordered mages. An optional rule for Magicka that extends into roleplay as well as mechanics is proper Magicka. Okay, so I can almost assuredly say we're gonna nix this. This was an idea that I had to make. Basically, if your character had gone to, if you wanted to play a mage that had gone to school, that had done things the straight-laced way, you could be considered doing proper Magicka, which would be an ordered mage. And if you did anything other than that, you were considered a hedge mage. The difference was hedge mages can only get so far in the discoveries, and ordered mages can go beyond that. I don't think we need to do that. I don't think that we need to limit people in that way, personally. But we'll read it and see what Ben thinks. An optional rule for Magicka, and it does say optional, that extends into roleplay as well as mechanics is proper Magicka. So the optional rule is called proper Magicka. Are you going to use it or not? And this is what it means. Hedge mages can perform discoveries of rank 3 or less. Ordered mages may exceed rank 3 and learn discoveries of rank 4 and above. Most mages are in fact only hedge mages. They are nevertheless powerful, although they never truly achieve the upper limits of the circles to which they aspire. In order for a mage to gain ordered Magicka, i.e. purchase rank 4 or higher, she must have what is known in the colleges as an order. An order extends to a circle, and possibly rarely to a scroll. But rarely to a scroll. Therefore, a mage with an order of the scroll of the natural
Just get rid of it.
can learn any discoveries from that circle. But it's an optional rule. It's pretty intense.
I don't know that it gives anything to the play experience, though. I don't know that it enriches it, other than making the arbiter have to come up with they have to shoehorn in a mentor NPC.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you're going to play This is what happens when you run a game for all mages. That's pretty much it.
The problem is, anyone who wants to play a hedge mage will eventually want to go beyond that limit.
Oh, of course.
Because people like the idea of playing an underdog, someone who worked really hard, came from the school of hard knocks. That's appealing. That's a fun character to play. It's a great concept, and running with that, you know. But there's a point in the campaign where everyone playing that character is going to want to break through that glass ceiling. And it's really a question of, are you going to allow for it or not? So really, why put the glass ceiling in the game?
Right, no, I agree. However, listen to this. Who are you? I am an order of the scroll of the unnatural of the 4th house. Sounds pretty cool. It's also totally different
It's more
than...
like I have an order of
I
the
am,
scroll of the
I am the
unnatural.
order of the circle of the void. It just sounds cool. I think it is incredibly granular and probably just completely unneeded. That said, there are ideas. It feels like it could be a splat.
Or like new things you could do for an all mage game.
Yep. If you were in a big old mage game and it's like, okay, well, how do you make this just a little bit more granular? How do you develop the houses more?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you can't get that or this because you need the prerequisites. It's essentially what Malphasia does. Malphasia is essentially an order by this. But yeah, I don't think it's needed. I don't think we should just erase it and throw it to, you know, the void. But I don't think it should be in the book.
So we just put it in like a miscellaneous file for later.
Yep. I think it would be cool for a splat.
Well, I guess we strike through it. What's this experimentation thing? Is that regarding this?
Probably.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Okay, so let's...
All of it.
Yeah. Ooh.
Although experimentation...
It talks
you're
about...
right. Yeah, that's within proper Magicka.
Yeah, and reach beyond hedge Magicka.
Yep.
So we need to strike through...
That's where it is.
Yeah, I went over to the other menu.
You make a
because-
little note on it.
Sure.
Because I think if you were to have a big old mage game, it would be interesting. But it's just so optional. Okay. So it's 18, not 14. Damn it. Oh well. The scrolls explained.
Are now on the first scroll, the scroll of the natural.
You think we should call it the scrolls explained? Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Sure. Why not?
Alright, let me make this up here really quick. 18.
Do you think?
I skipped it.
It RB skipped.
Boop, boop, beep, boop. Alright. So, let us delve into Magicka. Scroll of the Natural. I will now wax philosophical. Ta-da! Young artists, you wish to learn the mysteries of Magicka, the bending majesty of the source light, of ethos, and of the ubiquitous energies which move this world we call Craster. Magicka is art. Remember this well. Only a noble mind could grasp it, only a true artist could wield it. Lo! The 6 elements of the scroll of the natural: air, flame, earth, aegis, life, and death. Think of them as hues. A poor artist attempts to mix them and succeeds in creating mud, nothing, worthless creation. Wow, whatever. A great artist respects the purity of each and creates art. Ta-da. Quacumque vera doceme. Sai erment nebral of the 4th house, head chancellor.
Right on.
Pretty sure I just made that up.
It just reads better. You complained about it. You didn't like it. You didn't like it. You made a face.
I did make a face.
You made a face. Read it again. It feels better.
No, I know. I believe it. Nothing worthless creation over there.
Nothing. A worthless creation.
Elements and forces which exist normally in the bound realms. That's it. Natural Magicka gathers natural elements from somewhere and manifests them within the mage's proximity. This natural law is known as the law of conservation. Using manifesting heat to start a fire. Wow, guys. Using manifesting heat to start a fire consequently removes heat from somewhere else, usually the surrounding area. Healing a wound also causes a wound, and so on. The wound thing probably shouldn't be there. No, it is, because it's the natural Magicka.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sentences are bad.
They're just split up too much. So elements and forces which exist normally in the bound realms constitute natural Magicka. Which gathers natural elements from somewhere and manifests them within the mage's proximity. This natural law is known as the law of conservation. Something cannot be conjured
Yep.
from nothing. Using manifesting heat to start a fire consequently removes heat from somewhere else. Healing a wound also causes a wound. It reads like a list, but it's not a list.
Mm-hmm. Circle of air and flame, creating motion through heat.
Where's the motion come from?
I think it's because it's dynamic and it's fluid, as opposed to
Oh, this one's creating motion through forces.
controlling motion through forces.
Oh, I see. That feels kind of obtuse to me, though. Like, it is artistic and it's poetic, but I think it introduces a question mark in the mind of a reader.
What is that?
Is it not just air and flame? Or is it something else? Is it physics? Is it wooden? You know, that kind of thing.
I don't think that matters. As in,
You're okay with the question mark?
yeah.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't need to be changed. Circle of air and flame, creating motion through heat. So you're manipulating heat and you're creating motion. I think it's the opposite of entropy. I think that's where I'm going with it. But yeah, that is artistic. Circle of Earth and Aegis, controlling motion through forces. Circle of Biomancy, controlling life energies. Which
You wanted to
is...
say manipulating life energies or something to change the verb to make it different from the other two?
And I keep on calling this ethos. It is referenced, or should be referenced later, unless it's been got thrown to the wind. Okay.
Do you want me to take over?
Yeah.
Affinity. So when you advance into the scroll of the natural, you get this affinity. You gain the fundamental understanding of the bound realms. A mage with this knowledge can participate intelligently in discussions about natural magicka and she knows the basics about the circles housed therein. I'm going to fix that capital M in mage. Gaining knowledge does not come with impunity. However, as a mage will find that a small measure of her physical person is permanently affected and changes. The affected? Wait, that's a trait?
Apparently it is.
The change is not constant, but is common to behold, and it mimics one of the elements: air, earth, or life. Water.
There is no water.
Well, doesn't earth and ages fuck with water?
It can.
It's not an element?
Nope.
Huh. Why not?
I don't know.
Put that shit in there.
Well, I feel like I did it on purpose.
Well, let's get through earth and ages and maybe.
Because aegis is actually protection. It doesn't mean water.
Right. But you can manipulate water with earth and ages.
Right, but you're not water bending. Right? Like, air and flame is actually convection. That's actually what you're doing.
Mm.
You're manipulating heat. You're not actually manipulating the element of air or the element of fire. Either one. You're manipulating heat. And with earth and aegis, you're manipulating forces. That you're not. You literally aren't an earth mage, right? So just because it's dirt doesn't mean anything. What the dirt is made of is affected by the forces you control, and that's why I wrote the descriptions the way they're written.
See, that is
So I got
making
away
sense.
from elements.
That is making sense now.
It's just to someone who is watching them, like, oh, that's a fire mage. Actually, it's not a fire mage at all.
Well, we can get away from the idea of the element even further by saying earth is whatever the earth is made of, including water. Because water is terrestrial.
Let's keep on going, because I think you'll see where I'm going.
No,
with some of
I'm
it.
on board, but the idea is when someone asks, what about, you've got air, fire,
Oh,
earth,
right.
where's water? Water's, it's part of the earth.
Exactly. You get the firmament, the heavens,
And the
and
fundament.
the earth.
Yeah.
The player may choose or roll randomly for how she is affected. So the idea is you have an affinity and you get affected from it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Okay. Man, it's been a minute since I've read this. Okay, roll a d6.
Just be 1d6.
Roll.
No.
Roll 1d6. 1 to 2 is air. Lightning flashes in the eyes. A wind plays at the brow. A wind does. A thunder rattles in the voice. 3 to 4, earth. Earth. A stillness only matched by stone, seeming mercurial or restlessness. Or restless is probably a better way to name it.
Seemingly.
Yeah.
Mercurial or restless?
Yeah, it's a good better. A gray or ashen complexion, the aroma of clay or sea spray. 5 to 6, life.
See, you got water in there. Look at that. It's part of the earth. It is.
It's part of the earth.
It's earth.
Brightness and liveliness in the eyes, glossed over eyes and pallid skin, a sweet or metallic aroma follows. Some, or at times all, of the descriptions are plain to see. Mages with more control over their craft may be able to control the effect, but not for long, and they can never totally quench it. So yeah, you have a weird affect.
That's cool. I dig it.
Totally forgot about it.
Well, I mean, yeah.
It's been a while.
I need to roll on that for Ridley.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
I mean, he's fucked up anyway.
It's a whole other trait. What font are you using for that quote? That is Jim Nightshade.
Jim Nightshade. The old Jimmy.
The one for the text is the one you actually gave me, which is Century's School Book. Century... I can't spell. School Book is for the normal text. It's good goddamn font. I wonder where Megan is. Haven't seen her yet.
Probably didn't get the memo on Sundays.
Oh yeah, actually that's a good point. Let me.
Well, no, they do know. We told them.
Well, let me message her really quick. You read. Just do you want any coffee?
No,
I'm gonna make coffee.
No,
I'm making
'cause
coffee.
We'll have to go to bed tonight.
You'll have to go to bed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah, it will keep me awake because I started drinking less a while back. Like a year
Oh.
ago, I started drinking substantially less.
And this is why, you know, your ancestors are weeping. We on the live stream.
So the circle of air and flame, known to those who practice it as dynamic magicka, the circle of air and flame combines the more volatile natural elements to manifest different effects. Mages who specialize in dynamic magicka are often called hotheads or juveniles, as they are teased for concentrating on what is easily observed and obtained. Naysayers often forget how difficult the circle of air and flame is to master, and are quick to silence themselves when the sheer power of dynamic magicka is unleashed. The first discovery that you can get is called Thrall's Breath, and it gives you 3 character traits: heat, create sounds, and spark. Controlling heat and the currents of convection is known to the learned hothead as dynamic elements, or the learned hothead as dynamic elements. Dynamic elements can be summed up as the act of creating motion, as opposed to the firm elements, which are controlling motion. Controlling heat and the currents of convection is known to the learned. It's controlling heat and the currents of convection is known as dynamic elements. Dynamic elements can be summed up as the... Yeah, there's a terminology problem in this, but I see what you're doing. We just have to change it. There's a terminology problem. It's an issue with the part of speech you're using, but I see what you're doing. It makes sense. It's good. It just doesn't read well. So this is both the easiest to learn and most difficult to control of the elements. Knowledge of air and flame allows a mage to create sounds, basic in dealing with wind and fire, and to also draw in surrounding heat to spark a fire large enough to catch a torch. Well, to ignite a torch. So let's fuck with this. And we will just remove here. Just do that. Controlling heat and the currents of convection.
Yeah, please.
Is your coffee cup in there?
Oh yeah. Colin. The learned hothead.
That's so you had. Yeah, I'm just rephrasing it so it works with the words you're wanting. The learned hothead controls the dynamic elements. Heat and the currents of convection. They create motion and stand in contrast firm elements. Which control motion. Okay, no, I made it work. I didn't change any of your terminology.
I don't know why not. Okay, go on.
The learned hothead controls.
Learned.
Yeah, I keep saying that. I'm still working on it. The learned hothead. I actually corrected myself while you were out of the room.
Good.
Yeah.
We can put learned.
The learned hothead controls the dynamic elements heat and the currents of convection. They create motion and stand in contrast to the firm elements, which control motion. It is both the easy, and this is where I've got to continue fixing. I'm going to put these dynamic elements create motion. They are both the easiest to learn and most difficult to control of the elements. Knowledge of air and flame allows a mage to create sounds basic in dealing with wind and fire, and to also draw in surrounding heat to spark a fire large enough to ignite a torch.
It's clearly written by a hothead. In context, it makes perfect sense. It's knowledge of air and flame allows a mage to create sounds basic and dealing with wind and fire.
Yeah.
How about basic sounds? What was I saying? What was I thinking?
You're thinking basic sounds, but you didn't want to fuck with the name of the trait.
Yeah, but I mean, I wonder. Knowledge of air and flame allows a mage to create sounds basic and dealing with wind and fire. I don't know why.
I'm just gonna do this.
Do it.
I'm just,
Boop. And also to draw in surrounding heat. I literally was like draw.
There was a blank 1B, and I got rid of it.
Oh, you did.
I just got rid of it.
Okay.
Because you don't need a 1B.
The blank ones were always just supposed to give room for, hey, let's make more of these. So you'll see a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if you don't have that, then it doesn't have as many as the other circles. So we need to create other ones.
Okay. Then let me put it back. I'll put it back. Hang on.
Because that was the other thing. Like, if you go into air and flame, and you advance 3 times, you have everything. So we actually need to populate several of these with stuff.
Okay. All right. So we need a 1B. We don't have it right now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about 2A. Craster's Torch. This is combustion. That's the trait you get. Improving on her control of dynamic elements. Do we want this to be capitalized? Because if we're capitalizing it, then it needs to be like this.
Okay. There.
I'm checking up above and going down.
You start at the top and go down.
Yeah, and then
the D and the E. You know, create sound could be 1B. And we could just expound upon what that actually does. Like you could create sounds, or you could... It's essentially create sound or some kind of silence. Like you could dampen sounds, which would be kind of cool. Which means, essentially, you could have somebody who, if you give them that power enough, like if you describe it the right way, then they could shut people up or make themselves louder and have the voice. Or they could create weird sounds or, you know, those kinds of cantrip type things. And I think that'd be a kind of a cool 1B instead of just, oh, you can make fire and heat and remove fire and heat.
Yeah.
I will wax poetic for a moment to the masses who are watching this live stream. When we were thinking about this stuff, there's the question of, we'll get into this when we get to biomancy as well. What is a fire mage? Well, it's an air and flame. It's a mage who controls the circle of air and flame because they're dealing with heat. Well, what's an ice mage? It's also an air and flame mage. So the idea is that 3 crickets chirping.
I don't know why.
Fine by me.
Okay. It works for right now.
So the idea, if someone controls heat, then they can take it away, they can add to it, etc. So when you get into biomancy, you say, well, a healing mage, a healer, is a biomancer. Well, what's a necromancer? Also a biomancer, right? So there's a lot of that duality. It's not necessarily binary. It's just, it's easy to describe it that way. And when I was rewriting some of this lore, I wanted to get away from the 4 or 5 elements that are typical in like fantasy games. So like air, fire, earth, wind, water, heart, that kind of stuff, or like metal. I wanted to get away from The Last Airbender and such. One, just to not be so damned derivative. I actually really dig what what Avatar, The Last Airbender, and all that. Is it just called Avatar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What Avatar did, I got nothing against it, but I don't want it to be derivative of it either.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's a very Eastern way of looking at things, which is cool, but I don't want it to necessarily have that bent. You know?
Yeah.
Like, what are the elements? Well, to someone who's actually learned, like, pretty quickly you know that fire is not an element, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in DreadLore, fire is not an element. It's not like everything has fire in it. That's you could say that, and to a degree, there's a pun there. To a degree, you'd be correct, but they aren't the basic building blocks of life. Your phone could eat my phone. This is ridiculous.
I mean, yeah. That's what it does. It eats phones.
It eats it.
Actually, let me see that for a second.
It preys upon other phones.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice ship.
Megan said she is sorry for missing the stream. She is not feeling well.
I hope she's better soon.
I hope she is better soon as well. So, 3 crickets chirping.
It needs to actually probably have something to do with, because Esmeralda's Gift, Rorgan's Thunder, Craster's Torch, Thrall's Breath. I need something else.
Yes. Well, especially since it's 1B,
Mm-hmm.
it should have more than 1 trait. Oh, well, we just create sounds out of that, but it should have 2 traits.
Yeah.
So dynamic mages are able to alter or create sounds around them in order to just describe what you can do with it, like the ideas of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I hadn't gotten there.
Mm. Dampening them or making them louder.
Yeah.
Altering them, or you say alter, but I would expound a little bit. No, I would not say that it's the same as message.
Yeah, I typed that out and I was like, they're going to think that means really far away.
Yep.
Really, it just means I'm louder than normal. So.
And we have the bones there. Just make a note and say we need to expound on it. Environs. Yeah, make a note. Say well expound.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking this isn't about distance. This is about ambient noise.
Right.
Like, my message breaks through it. That kind of thing.
Mm.
So just we'll put this back. Add.
Mm-hmm. But it is a good start. Crastus torch. So, improving on her control of dynamic elements, a hothead discovers the wonders of combustion. Deals an additional d6. An additional 1d6 calculated as damage. The explosive and destructive nature of both. Huh? Discovers the wonders of combustion, the explosive and destructive nature of both. I feel like that was just copy pasta. Within a stone's throw of her, she is able to ignite dry objects or bolster ongoing fires. Objects which do not easily ignite are instead scorched. Yeah, so the reason this is a discovery is because you can actually cause things to combust. And if it combusts, it's dealing damage. That was the spirit of it. In our new form, it's it's essentially giving you successes, like straight successes, if they're dealing damage. Actually, no, it's not. It's just dealing damage.
Mm-hmm.
That's successes.
It is, but I think the difference here though is that it's not giving successes in the sense that
1d6 of successes. You're not rolling a d6 looking for successes.
Yeah, my point is that it is specifically when dealing damage with your Magicka, you get an extra d6 in damage. Right? Which is you roll a d6 and that's how many extra successes you get.
Yep.
But it's not extra successes for anything else.
Right.
It's
Right.
just for destroying things.
Right. Like you're blowing something up.
Yeah. It's explosion magic.
Yep. Although I'm going to use combustion to light the what? Like you're in a coal fire locomotive,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that steam?
Mm-hmm.
Those are steam engines. So if you were like combust, you'd actually just blow it up.
Yeah.
Right. So that wouldn't work. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going.
But modern car engines with gas, those are combustion engines.
Right. But
You're harnessing explosions.
would it work though? Would you be like, I cause more combustion inside this engine? Wouldn't it just pop it?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work.
Oh, it's on it's a combustion engine.
You just throw a head just right out just through the hood.
It should be called Craster's Blast.
Like Baja Blast. You get that
Yeah.
from Taco Bell.
Esmeralda's
Combustion.
gift. I think this is fun. Oh wait, no, it's not. The explosive and
it's
destructive nature of both.
not.
No, it's fun.
It's not.
A hothead discovers the wonders of combustion. Within a stone's throw of her, that should not be there.
Yeah. So really quickly, let's do it in the order that it's presented. We need to clarify this.
Yes.
Is this when you bid combustion as a trait, or is just when because you have the discovery and you bid one of your air and flame expertise traits?
You can just, unless we're going back on this, you can bid a trait and use Magicka. Unless it explicitly says
Okay.
you have
So just
to.
basically your air and flame Magicka does extra damage once you have this discovery. Right?
If you're using combustion, yes.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Do you have to bid the trait combustion? Or do you
No.
have to bid any of your traits from...
I see what you're saying. So if someone were like, I'm going to use Roar against Thunder, which is Thunderclap. Let's say it does, or no, I'll use Thrall's Thought, which is Lightning Bolt.
Let's not say you're using the names of discoveries. Let's say you're using a Circle of Air and Flame to hurt someone. I bid angry. I spit fire on them, and I want to get that extra d6 of damage. How
So
do I get it?
So what you're doing, let me liken it again to like Kung Fu or karate or something. Because these are discoveries, you know a technique, which is Craster's Torch.
Mhm.
So you are using the technique Craster's Torch. You can use it however you want. You don't have to bid combustion. You can bid it however you want.
Mechanically, how do I get the d6 in damage?
You say, I'm going to use, I'm going to do a thing, and I'm attempting to make it combust. I'm using Craster's Torch. That's what you do. And you bid whatever you want, and you get that d6.
What do you have to bid to get the d6?
Whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Unless we're going back on expertise.
Well,
Because we've done it both ways.
So, answer me within the bounds that I'm giving.
Okay.
In order to do the major action, which is spitting fire at someone, I'm bidding angry.
Yep.
Do I have to bid something else
No.
to claim the benefit of combustion?
Nope.
Okay, that is it. So
But let me. So wait for this explanation, just to make sure you're on the same page with me.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm trying to shoot someone with a lightning bolt from my finger. Well, can you create lightning bolts? Yes, I can. I have Thrall's Thought.
mhm.
Cool. What do you bid? I bid angry. Boom. Can I also make it explode? Yes, you can, but that's a second spell. Just because you know that discovery doesn't mean you cast both at the same time. They are two different things. Can I make it blow up? Yes. 2 chaos die. And you got a bid.
Explosive lightning.
Explosive lightning. Yes, you get a
That's
D10
like
and a
some.
D6.
That's some like Akira stuff. You
Yes,
imagine
it will
like
fucking blow you up.
imagine like a lightning bolt
Let's go,
ripping
let's go.
across the sky, and when it hits the target, instead of disappearing, it like ruptures, like herniates, like bulges out, and then explodes.
Yes. You if you
That's
want to
awful.
murder everything, this is what you do. Yeah. It is a war mage. And everyone is terrified of you.
Yeah. See, okay, that's what I wanted to know. That works. Okay.
And maybe
So-
that needs to be explicitly said somewhere in Magicka of you can use multiple discoveries, it's just they are considered multiple Sorkos. We need a better word for it. I think Sorko is a cool word, but it sounds stupid.
I think just it's the effect. It's multiple effects. Like you summoning multiple effects. You
Yep.
multiple. I mean, we use Sorko, but I think it's silly to try to going through all the effort to avoiding using the word spell just to use the word spell. You know what I mean?
But it's not the word spell. It's Sorko.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I mean, we say
It's spell
obfuscate
and-
instead of invisibility.
Those two aren't necessarily the same.
That's true.
But what we're talking about is the word spell
In a
in
different
English versus Esperanto. It's
right,
still
but,
the same
but,
word.
But the disambiguation, right, is actually the whole point. The reason that we're trying to avoid the word spell is so people don't associate it with D&D.
Yeah.
That is why. So they're not like, oh, my spells. No, they're Sorkos, or whatever the word is. They're Florida Flirt. Oh, a Florida Flirt. Someone could be like, is that a spell? Well, no, it's Florida Flirt. It works different.
Yeah.
It's Sorka.
Okay,
Doesn't
yeah,
that
so
just mean spell? Yes, but you asshole, you don't have third level spells.
It's just, I don't know. It seems silly. It's going to break down. It will break
It'll
down.
break down.
Someone will look it up and be like, those assholes. It just means spell. There are spells. No, they're
We could
flirters.
call them Malsorko, which means not a spell.
Yeah, I like that.
These are Malsorkos. Of course.
Not spells.
Not spells. These are not spells.
What are you casting? Not spells.
Not spells.
They're not spells.
They ain't spells.
I cast spell, not.
What are they called in fucking the new Harry Potter? Like no mages or something?
No badges?
No mages?
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway. We just got canceled like 3 times for me making. Anyway.
Improving on her control of dynamic elements, a hothead discovers the wonders of combustion. Her Magicka deals an additional 1d6 damage when claiming the benefit of this discovery. There we go. Her Magicka deals an additional 1d6 damage when claiming the benefit of this discovery.
I'm responding to some Instagram people being like, sorry, I can't be on the live stream, which is totally cool. 1 second. I do like Malsorco. Might be a thing.
It might be a thing.
What if there's an element that no longer exists? That's a good idea. We were all watching. If I drank coffee now, I wouldn't sleep tonight. I swear, you guys, you gotta fortify your bodies. Okay.
You gotta force your body to accommodate this thing.
Yeah. So are we good for combustion?
She's able to ignite dry objects or bolster ongoing fires. Objects which do not ignite easily are instead scorched. Yeah, sure, it works. Since we're on the same line of thought, never mind, we're good. Yeah. Do we need to address Magicka discovery?
Combustion. We should mention that as a mage can cause things to combust, they can also stop things from combusting. So, for example, if you have that air and flame mage in a war, and another mage shoots, spits fire, they could actually remove the combustion from it, so it doesn't ignite. Or if there's, the ship's about to explode, they can actually quell that combustion. Just at a higher level, it's the same thing. It's just maybe making a note of they can do the opposite of it, but it generally is more difficult. And that way the arbiter can say, okay, well, you got to throw down, and it's 3 successes to be able to do it, to quell that combustion. Have you had any of this popcorn? It's delish.
I've had a few pieces, yeah, it's pretty yummy. It's just Kroger brand, right? It looks like a Kroger brand bag. Oh, it's Pop Secret. Okay.
It's Pop Secret, baby.
All right. Yeah, that's good. I was going to say, I thought it was Kroger brand because it tastes like Kroger brand. Kroger has really good popcorn. You know who doesn't?
Who? Costco.
Really? Yeah. I have this big box of Costco buttered popcorn, and it's not good.
It tastes like butthole?
It's just sort of bland. Like the butter tastes stale.
Like butt?
Yeah. It tastes like,
Remember that? We had some popcorn when we were gaming at my mom's once. And
it's
we had
not that
just
bad.
like,
It's not that bad.
It tasted like hot dirt.
It is not that bad. I'm just remembering that colorful language.
Bad.
I'm remembering that colorful language from that food review. It's like, you remember the first time that you licked the inside of a hobo's ass? It's kind of like that.
Remember that one time?
The first first time you did it.
Right.
It's taking that leap of, we know you've done it more than once.
This has happened many times in her. Alternatively, she may prevent the combustion of objects, though the effort involved
is greater than encouraging an explosion. Alternatively, she may prevent the combustion of objects, though the effort involved is greater than encouraging an explosion. We want to go into discoveries. Fuck.
And you're at the top.
I'm at the very top. Good. That's where I wanted to be.
Oh, because it went to the we are here.
Well, I just typed up. I hit Shift 9.
Oh, weird. How discoveries work. So discoveries are what you get at each rank of an expertise. Or, actually, each rank is essentially the discovery. Typically, you're going to get a power from that discovery, and at least one character trait. Sometimes, you have to bid that specific character trait to activate the power.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, you don't. Most of the time, you don't. You can bid whatever relevant character trait makes sense. For instance, you want to cast some Magicka and make something combust. You can bid you're angry. But there are other times, specifically in some of the more, I think, like wartime expertise that we have, where like in the I forget what we call it. It's not the Tome of Command. It's like, I can't remember what we named it now, but it's essentially commanding people around. Or like there's one where you essentially just don't take damage. Like you ignore a bunch of damage. You have to bid that specific trait. And anywhere where that is, it explicitly says so. By and large, you know, as opposed to games that have a lot of feat trees where you have to really know, you know, well, level 1 does this, level 2 does this, level 3 does this, and, you know, there's all these, like, prerequisites you have to tick, these boxes you have to tick to be able to use a power. Like, it's 3 times per day or once per day or something. In this, if the situation is right, and you have the right character trait, you can bid it. If the Arbiter doesn't even know what that discovery is, it's pretty straightforward to decide whether or not it can work. You say, okay, well, what's the name of the discovery? What's the player trying to do? Is that in the wheelhouse? Is it within the spirit of the story? That character's power level, can it be done? If it can be done, throw down, there you go.
I just added that last sentence, but it was more or less already there.
In the case of Magicka claiming the benefit of multiple
read
discoveries,
the whole thing, it'll help you.
players may use multiple discoveries and expertise simultaneously. To do so, they must bid all necessary traits. A situation must allow for the action to take place, and this sometimes takes longer than a single turn. In the case of Magicka, claiming the benefit of multiple discoveries, even within the same circle, requires rolling an equal number of chaos dice.
Works?
Yep.
Alright, we're moving on. Cool.
And potentially, well, no, you're right. It already tells us about it. Esmeralda's gift.
So you get fly and glide with this. Even as she utters Esmeralda's ancient words and further traces ineffable glyphs into the air, only patience and concentration allow a juvenile to learn how to fly for brief periods. equal to her successes in rounds. And to glide so long as the wind is at her back and she concentrates. Same thing with concentrate.
No. I don't know why I called them juveniles. Is there another name for them?
Hothead.
Yeah.
I don't like juveniles so
No,
much.
I don't either. It's disparaging against air and flame mages. I don't like it.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
I don't like it at all.
I don't often play air and flame mages. So I can't say that I'm particularly like personally
How about
offended.
dynamos?
Sure. I wanna fix this a little bit.
Okay.
Only patients will allow a hothead to learn how to fly for a brief period. They already learned how they allow them to fly.
Tutu fly.
To tutu fly. Allow a hothead to fly for brief periods. Equal to her successes in rounds. Sure. The phrasing feels round.
It's a little weird. I think it's clear, but it sounds weird.
Number of
There you go.
rounds equal to her successes. In casting the Malsorco. Wait, there we go. Allowed her to fly for beef periods, and to glide so long as she concentrates with the wind at her back.
So, just to reiterate, concentration can happen in two ways. First, every time the arbiter asks the player if they're concentrating, they make a bid to maintain that concentration. Or the arbiter can ask, usually if it's in rounds, like, you're within the middle of a fight or something, or when time really, really matters. The arbiter could say, okay, throw down, that number of successes is how long you can do it. So, throw down, you get 3 successes. Okay, for the next 3 rounds, you're concentrated, or you have concentrated, you don't have to worry about it. But, after those 3 rounds, you got to throw down again, and bid again, and that kind of thing. A lot of times there are not too many rounds in DreadLore. I think at most maybe 5, but usually things are resolved in the first 2 or 3. And part of that, as I fucking smash this popcorn, to use the parlance of our times.
You're fucking it?
Well, the smash means both. To smash a hamburger, or to go smash. Yeah.
Oh, so it actually refers to eating now.
Yeah, it means to eat, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know.
I didn't know that.
I may be wrong.
I really thought it was just fucking... It makes me think of the lighthouse. If I had a steak, if I had a red, juicy, bloody steak, if I had a steak, I'd fuck it.
Yep.
You're fond of me lobster, aren't you, Tommy? You're fond of me lobster, aren't you?
I hate your lobster. I hate your lobster. Okay.
So he goes into that.
Okay, fine. I like your lobster. That's a good damn scene.
Well, it's like a 3-minute monologue.
Yeah.
Of him cursing him to the depths.
Yeah, and that's exactly... Well, anyway. So, roar against thunder. Sounds like a fart. Thunderclap.
Engorging your arrogance with bilge and... What's it?
I don't know. It's 3 minutes. The hothead produces a deafening noise by forcing a sudden movement of air.
I was going to put a period there. That's what a thunderclap
Out.
is.
Trumpet blast. Avakeen's trumpet.
Well, I mean, butt trumpet is it's a thing.
It is a thing. The thing about Rorigan's thunder, I mean, so these, if you haven't guessed, a lot of these are the deities, right? It's their names. So Rorigan is one of the names. Thrall is a demigod. And so the discoveries being called that kind of makes sense. Not necessarily because Rorigan or Thrall came up with these things. It's just that they're associated with those deities. That said, why would a mage come up with this? Other than to do it in battle. Why would a mage do it?
Well, I mean, if you had if you had a body of politicians, let's say, who are...
Later, Daniel.
See it?
By a sword.
It means
Sure.
disenchantment. Huh.
Oh, sword chill.
Sword chill. No, sword chill.
Sword chill. It's kind of cool.
So, yeah, if you had an uncouth body of politicians in a parliamentary chamber or something like that, and you're trying to speechify, and no one's paying attention, they're all screaming, arguing, and fist fighting with each other in the audience chamber, and you have your pocket mage in the background and say, "All right, go ahead, you need to get their attention, do the thing," and they're like, boom, clap their hands. That's why. That's
Yeah.
not necessarily combat, but that is a way to get people's attention, to make a loud, sudden noise. It will turn heads.
So, I think the idea of, like, what is a thunderclap? A thunderclap is associated with lightning,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's explicitly the sound, right, of lightning
Cocoon.
burning through the air.
Mhm.
Like it's an explosion. Like the percussive, is it percussive? Is that the right word?
Well,
I mean, lightning's caused, or thunder is caused by the presence of lightning, right? And that explosion. So it really is just an explosion of air. So a thunderclap, we think of it, oh, it's thunder, thunder, thunder. Boom! A big ol' clap or noise. Really, that's just an explosion.
Yeah, and in typing that out, I was trying to avoid the term compression, like compressing the air, because, and I don't know why I did it, but it's not air that can't be compressed. It's water.
Right.
You can't compress water. That will fuck you up. It'll fuck up your day. But with air, you know, a sonic boom is the same sort of thing. You are moving faster than the speed of sound, and there's a moment. It looks like you're pushing through air itself,
And it just
and it sort of
collapses.
rebounds in on itself and collapses and creates and a percussive noise
So
from that sort of explosion.
You're essentially creating a pressurized.
It's like a pressure wave. You're moving air so quickly that it makes the sound of lightning.
So
which
I'm
is a
thinking,
thunderclap.
it should be something along the lines of like pressurizing air, moving air so quickly that it creates the thunderclap should be the description,
Yeah.
and then allow people to use that however they want.
Mm.
You know, if you had tires, you could be like, and just pump that tire up, like a blimp. Boom.
Just air in.
In. I mean, you can pressurize shit. Why not? Especially if you have manipulation high enough, you could do it.
I'm doing a good Google search. I typed thunder. How?
I love the answer. Answer thunder.
How does thunder happen? It is caused by the rapid expansion of the air surrounding the path of a lightning bolt. As lightning connects to the ground from the clouds, a second stroke of lightning will return from the ground to the clouds, following the same channel as the first strike.
So it's actually the air getting out of the way, not burning or anything. Okay.
The grumbles and growls we hear in a thunderstorm actually come from the rapid expansion of the air surrounding the lightning bolt. The heat from the electricity of this return stroke raises the temperature of the surrounding air to around 27,000 degrees Celsius. Since the lightning takes so little time to go from point A to point B, the heated air has no time to expand. The heated air is compressed, raising the air from 10 to 100 times the normal atmospheric pressure. The compressed air explodes outward from the channel, forming a shock wave of compressed particles in every direction. Like an explosion, the rapidly expanding waves of compressed air create a loud, booming burst of noise.
Damn.
So it really is just moving air really quickly.
So much that it blows up.
Yeah. Well, the air doesn't blow up, it makes the sound of a blow up.
So I'm thinking the idea of Rorgan's Thunder is the name of the discovery, and then, like, pressurize, or,
I love Thunderclap.
yeah?
I think it's great.
Okay, well okay. Then in that case, we just need to make sure the description is clear about what you're doing, and then if you wanted to create thunder, or emulate thunder, you can do that. If you wanted to pressurize a room, you could do that. If you wanted to depressurize a room, suddenly, you can do it. Like, that's you suck the air out of someone's lungs, thunderclap, and there's like a thunderclap. Like 10 dudes drop down because they dead. That's heinous.
I don't know why I did that. They can refill the air balloon of a dirigible. That is... Oh, there's no E.
Nope.
It's all I's. There we go.
I would say with the proper skill, or the right amount of skill, they could refill the air of a dirigible. Or maybe that's implicit in it. I don't want it to read like the no-no word. So someone's like, well, see, it says I can do the thing. This is what I do. You know?
But it needs to be she, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or emulate a thunderclap.
Silence a room. So if this is a list of things, just as an example, silence a boisterous, boisterous is the wrong word. Silence a room full of insolent senators. Or a better word instead of insolent.
Not cantankerous. I mean, boisterous works, but there's a word we're looking for.
Yeah.
They're all like at each other's throats screaming.
A room of senators at each other's throats.
A room full of
malcontent.
I just say hollering senators.
Yeah.
I guess the point across, right? Does that
Mhm.
work for you?
Oh yeah.
Refill the air balloon of a dirigible. Silence a room full of hollering senators, or emulate a thunderclap.
With a high enough manipulation, she can do all these things. Yeah.
I mean, that fits the... There is the check.
Yep.
You know?
I like it.
Cool.
Okay, we have about 9 minutes before we need to end.
Let's just get through these then.
Okay.
we
Okay,
got-
there's one left.
There's one more. Thrall's Throt.
Ah, yes, his throat.
You get lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt! A sure sign of power is when a juvenile learns to harness the ferocious energy of the lightning bolt. Her Magicka deals an additional 1d10 damage when claiming the benefit of this discovery. Conjuring lightning takes some time, 1 turn, as she builds static and concentrates. Or it is nearly immediate if she is near to electricity, the same turn, as she is able to channel a wild bolt of nature's fury into one shocking blast extending from her outstretched hand. Chaotic as it is, a lightning bolt can be shot as far as an arrow. That's it. And aiming requires a hothead to be able to see her target. So, that was in an attempt to regulate Magicka within the description.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that. At the same time, lightning bolt having a range, whatever. I do think it's incredibly powerful for a mage to just be able to point and do long distance pop.
I think you just get rid of it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
The idea being the reason why you can't shoot it far enough is you can't focus it into a cohesive bolt.
Right.
It fragments and separates out, or it grounds itself.
Yeah.
Because that's what lightning wants to do, is ground itself.
Yep.
So keeping it parallel to the ground over a distance, some willpower.
Right.
So, yeah, it just takes care of itself. Oh, what do you mean? Lightning goes really far. Well, it also seeks to ground itself as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So
It's also being shot from high. Shit.
Bam!
Okay, so we need to decide on a 3B and a 4B.
I still want to...
Would you put this on this
Because
charger over there?
this doesn't work so well in the sense that, of course, it takes a turn, you know? It takes an additional turn.
Yep.
Or it takes 2 turns to summon and unleash.
Right.
Maybe is better. Does that work for you?
Mm-hmm.
To summon... Conjuring Lightning takes 2 turns to summon and unleash. I'm just going to put lightning. Lightning takes 2 turns to summon and unleash as she builds static and concentrates.
If you've
Or one.
If you've seen Big Trouble in Little China, which is the first time that Raiden from Mortal Kombat was really thought up, I'm pretty sure that's where they got the idea for Raiden in Mortal Kombat.
On 1 turn, if we remember.
Was the guy who plays the Raiden character. Actually, I think his name's Raiden, now that I think about it. He sits there, and anytime he shoots lightning, he's got to, like, conjure it up, which is the mental image I have of this.
Cool. How does that read? Lightning takes 2 turns to summon and unleash.
As she builds static and concentrates. So, is this a big concentrate?
I don't think it needs to be.
Or 1 turn if a nearby source of electricity can be harnessed. I think it does kind of suck to say, okay, doing lightning costs 2 major actions. Basically is what it is. Which would mean it's 2 bids. So that would be the concentrate.
The real question is, does using it is the D10 and extra damage worth not just like doing 2 magic effects over 2 turns?
I would say if you hit someone with a die 10 of extra damage on top of whatever you do, you kill them.
Then we're good.
Yeah.
then it's
Like
perfect.
that's heinous.
The question,
Especially with proficiencies.
the
And
question
you're like,
really-
ha, it's 37 damage.
yeah, the question really is, I think, rhetorical, but it illustrates the point, right? Which, is it worth taking 2 turns?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then leave it. It's good.
Yeah.
If it's questionable, then we need to tune it. But if it's pretty black and white, as in a D10 extra damage,
you know, you just said that.
why don't you just? Well, here's the thing: we could do 2d6 to change the average.
Solstice harmony, something about music, something about music and resonance. Because all of these.
Oh god, you tear someone apart with that frequency.
Yeah, but
The bridge.
I was thinking, you know, a lot of these are just, they're really just combative, and we need to make sure that we have to, you know, eat our own pudding, so to speak. That is terrible. It's a terrible metaphor,
Not really.
but we need to have discoveries that aren't about murdering,
Yeah.
like big time, because that's, I mean, the descriptions kind of deal with it, but this is pretty combat.
Yeah.
Or combative. So the idea of like solstice harmony, like, because solstice has a song and everything, or solstice song would be fine too. But yeah, you could rip someone apart with resonance frequencies. At the same time, that idea of like there's a melodious thing, like, I don't know, we can deal with the description, but I'm thinking of like someone in the forest and like calming things, or
Yeah.
you know, whatever.
It should probably be about the weather. We talk about air and flame mages manipulating weather, and we don't have a discovery for it, so we should.
Yeah. The weather.
The weather.
Something about controlling the weather.
Yeah. The weeder.
The weeder. All right.
Well, like,
we have 1 minute.
All right. The weather.
You want to put a we are here?
Yeah. Let me get rid of the old one.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I getting through that, we did more than I think we realized, but
Yep.
That I feel pretty good about where we're at with what we've done. Looking back on it, how do you feel about the discoveries coming from a single scroll? Or are you still undecided?
I'm not entirely sure that. It just seems so ham-fisted to say, you got to have a whole bunch of discoveries, like. But I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think honestly the bigger part of the prerequisite of gaining a house are your stories.
It's definitely the most important part. And I think maybe that's something that we add, is that everything aside from the stories is subject to negotiation. As in, the authorities who would recognize you as being of a certain house may make exceptions for people, right? Like this is the baseline. This is how most people do it, but like if you've got something else going on, fine. The important part is you need the stories.
Agree. I think also making a uniform is not really what we need to do. I think by house 4, especially by house 5 and 6, the prerequisites, aside from the stories, should be you have to contribute discoveries. Like someone cannot get to house 5 unless they've literally created 2 discoveries.
Yeah.
And house 6 is like the same thing, whatever. You know, that idea of like, you have to be not just a master, like you have to be contributing. Otherwise, your house 4, you're a master of Magicka.
Yeah.
It's just, well, what's the difference? It's like a 4-star general. That's the highest you can go. unless the president makes you a 5-star. There's no other way, right? So that idea of like reserving those ranks so that, you know, players like Jacob, for instance, who's a good player, but he definitely has that bent of, oh, you can get 5th rank? Well, that's the one I want. That's the one I want. Which is great for story, but as a player, he's going to do whatever he can to get that thing.
You're right.
And the description needs to be such to where it's like, look, you can do that, but this is not just incredibly hard, time-consuming, whatever, but you also have to convince NPCs to do it.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I
That
mean,
makes sense. And it's something like a black belt has to do, right? Like, okay, show me that you have internalized these techniques. Show me techniques that you have created.
Yeah.
Show me your 300 techniques.
Well, that whole idea
Well,
of
you
like,
haven't taught me 300 techniques. Exactly. Show me your 300 techniques. That
Like-
kind of thing.
like that
Create your own stuff.
like Afro Samurai, for instance. I like the idea of, maybe not just as Afro Samurai, but the idea of like, maybe there's only one 6th house mage. Or maybe the only way, kind of like in chess, the only way to get to Grandmaster is by beating a Grandmaster. Like perhaps there's a Holmganga, or perhaps there's, which is a mage's duel. Who knows, we could write out a little bit that says, you know, the prerequisites for these really have to do with, you have to be that good.
Mm-hmm.
Not just, you have to have advanced 25 times and have played the game for 2 years. You know?
Yeah. Well, cool. I think that's it for this evening. I appreciate everyone who has tuned in and
Yep.
everyone who watches this once it's uploaded onto the channel.
The next game talk will be next week, Sunday, the 29th, at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard.
Are we in Eastern Standard or Eastern Daylight?
Eastern Standard.
Okay, so spring will be Eastern Daylight.
No, so EST changes. It springs forward and falls back.
Well, what's EDT then? Because there is an Eastern Daylight Time to represent the fact that Eastern Standard Time, most places in EST use daylight savings.
Huh.
So I thought because we rolled back to conserve daylight, I thought that we were in Eastern Daylight Time.
That may be. I was never aware of that. I have never been aware of that.
I mean, I don't want to come across like I know what I'm talking about. I asked a question for a reason. I'm just
No, I
I've
don't
heard
know.
of EDT,
I do not know.
and that's why I've taken to saying Eastern. It's
Right.
Eastern time. I just say Eastern time.
Interesting. Mountain time. Anyway, 7 o'clock Sundays, our time, which is Eastern time. That is technically Thanksgiving weekend, but it's several days after Thanksgiving. Are you going to be good on that Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Will the broadcast be posted so I can watch it later? Yes, Nigel, it will.
Yes, Nigel, it shall. And when I get around to it, I will be chopping up these episodes into smaller highlight episodes. If you check out the Something Buncombe channel on YouTube, which is ostensibly where you are now, if you go to one of the playlists, which is called Highlights, you should see them there. Anything dealing with GameTalk, RP, all that. And I'll eventually do that where it's like 5-10 minute episodes. So I'm just chunking these longer episodes into shorter, more consumable
Okay, so
videos.
it is backwards. We are in Eastern Standard Time right now, and in March 8th, or whenever it happens next March, then we will roll into Eastern Daylight Time, spring it forward.
I see. So 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the PM.
I hate daylight savings time
Indeed,
so
daylight
much.
saving is horrible. And we'll hopefully get some stuff done with these additions before next week. That would be really good. And then we can go through them and jump into the Circle of Earth and Aegis, which is a very, very cool circle. I don't want to jinx it, but maybe we'll actually move through Magicka at a good pace until we get to Words of Power.
Yeah.
In which case we will take it out of the game. Okay. Thank you guys. Peace out.